We have the mic here for questions. I'll set it right here.
Good morning. Morning, Gary.
Morning, Bob. Okay, good morning. My name's Gary Matsuoka, and we're here at Laguna Hills Nursery in Santa Ana. Today's Saturday morning class is going to be on some of our most popular trees, the peaches, nectarines, and nectaplum. So now the thing about peaches and nectarines, they are among the deciduous fruit trees that need chill. So they are stone fruit, and all the stone fruit we believe need a winter chill in order to develop their flower buds properly, bloom, and make fruit. Now, the problem we have here is we don't get much winter chill. This year, the official record says 5 hours, and we need about 300 hours to get a lot of the fruit trees that we grow developing properly. Now, the chill requirements of plants are cumulative. So overnight, you get some cooler temperatures. And they used to tell us it was 45 degrees to 34 degrees. And now we know that it's more like 34 degrees to 55 degrees. You get chill all the way up to 55. Otherwise, we never get any chill here. But you get less chill at the edges. So you get most chill around 45, 46. And you get less chill toward 55 and 34. It's a bell curve. It's not a square box of chill that we get. So even on today, which was, we were only in the mid 50s this morning, so we probably didn't get much chill last night. But yesterday we were in the high 40s, so we did get some chill. So, and if we have just 1 or 2 cool weeks, like I remember about 4 years ago, all the chill was in March. I mean, most of the winter was really warm, and suddenly in March we had a cold series of storms come through, got a lot of chill. We actually got 300 hours that year in just a real short amount of time. So it doesn't take that much time to get chill if you have a few cool weeks in a row where the temperatures just don't break 60. It really helps. So, and also, the nice thing about peaches is they don't need full sun all year. So if you have a house, a building, say, and you have a north side and a south side, the north side gets shaded all winter. The shade comes out, probably at around a 30-degree angle or so. So you get a lot of shade, which helps with the temperatures. It actually stays a little cooler all day on the north side. South side's a little warmer all day. But the peaches do need full sun or nearly full sun when they're ripening. But the nice thing about peaches and nectarines, most of them ripen June, July, when the sun's at its very highest. So on the north side of a house, like I had a 2-story house with hardly any overhang. The amount of shade on the north side is only a few feet from the house at that point. 2-story house, 1-foot overhang. You don't get much shade on the north side at all. So if you put your peaches and nectarines, if you're in a marginal area, especially on hills around here where the chill is less than near the riverbed, say, you can put the peaches on the north side of a building and they'll get a little more chill in the winter than they would on the south side or west side or east side. And they'll get enough sun in the summer to ripen their fruit properly. So that's one trick you can kind of do with them. Being totally dormant in the winter, they just don't need the sun at that time. Peaches and nectarines are genetically not separated by much. So even though nectarines, people can tell they're the flesh is a little firmer, a little bit tangier, and of course the skin is smoother. They say when they're breeding peaches and nectarines, sometimes they'll get something that they're not expecting. They'll get, they're breeding peaches and they get a nectarine. So it's pretty darn close. I don't know if they've determined exactly which gene or genes creates a nectarine and a peach. but it's pretty close. So peaches are a little bit more reliable. Well, okay, so on peach trees, you know, in our catalogs, there's well over 100 peach trees in the catalog. There are maybe a dozen that will produce reliably in our area because we're so low chill. Nectarines, there's maybe 40 or 50 in the book, and of those, 2 or 3 are reliable here. So nectarines, we have far fewer choices than the peaches. So we're kind of stuck that way. Currently, again, we're getting about 300 hours of chill every winter. Now, back, you know, it changes all the time. So 10 years ago, we were getting maybe 100, 150 hours. But back in the late 80s, I started gardening in 1980, and the first few years I was gardening, there was no winters. We were not getting any chill, so we couldn't grow peaches or plums in those days. And then the late 80s, we had the coldest temperatures ever recorded in California. So for about 5 or 6 years, I was in peach nectarine heaven. I can grow any of them, it seemed like. Stuff that wasn't supposed to grow here, we were getting maybe 600, 700 hours of chill in the late 80s because I used to garden outside at night when I was single. I had my thermometer with me. Normally in December, I'd go out there at 9 o'clock, it'd be in the 30s. And we haven't seen that for a long time, where you go outside in the evening, not midnight, not in the morning, in the evening, and be in the 30s. In those days, we regularly hit the high 20s every winter. And in 1990, we hit the low 20s. So those were the coldest winters ever. And I could grow a lot of things that we can't grow now. So we've grown a lot of peach. You know, I might have grown 20 different peach trees over the years and 10 different nectarines. But now we're kind of stuck with just recommending a few of those. So.
Is there an agricultural website or something that you just go online and say how many chill hours that we have by certain areas?
Yeah, there's well, we don't know how accurate they are. So if you get on what is it called? University of California Fruit and Nut. If you look up that, or University of California chill hours, they have a website with all the chill stations in California, and there's probably close to 100 of them. Like there's one in Irvine, one in San Clemente, one in Costa de Caza, one in Long Beach. I don't know if there's any others in Orange County. But they record the 2 different types of recording chill on their website. The one in Irvine says, I think last count was like 10 hours of chill. But, you know, we had a lot of, so the one thing we don't know, when you get chill hours in the wintertime, can you lose all of them? Like in November, it was a cold month. November was one of the coolest Novembers we've seen in a decade or so. And we might have accumulated close to 200 hours of chill in November. But we lost it all in December and January because we haven't gotten very cold either month. But did the trees lose all the effect? I mean, the researchers are thinking there's certain stages the trees get to where they get the flower buds develop a certain amount, and then they don't go backwards anymore. They can't lose that effect. So we don't know how much of that we lost, because we have some customers who have fruit trees that require about 150 hours of chill already bloomed. They bloomed a few weeks ago, in fact. They said, I think they said they started blooming around New Year's Day. So they had the chill where they were enough to get this 150-hour peach tree blooming. So they had enough chill, but we don't know how much the trees saved from that. If they had 150 hours of chill earlier, do they still have it, or did they actually lose it?
So what month is the best to track the chill hours like that?
Well, The entire population of fruit tree experts say the earlier you get the chill, the better. So if you get it real late, it doesn't work as well as if you get it early. Although that one year we had all the chill was in March, and at the end of March, all the trees bloomed. We were just amazed. We didn't think they had a chance, and all the trees bloomed at the same time. So now back in the 80s, we had the winters were real wild where we'd get a frost, and then it'd be 70 degrees for a few weeks. And then we get another frost. I remember because I was growing bananas, and all my banana leaves would just turn black and freeze. And then they start growing again because it was warm. And then we get another frost, and they freeze again, over and over in wintertime. So we get those back and forth things. But I mean, for some reason in the late 80s, we did not have May gray and June gloom. It's wild. We were just clear skies, but we had the extremes, real cold, real warm. So anyway, so peaches and nectarines, if you get the chill, you're supposed to, they have a heavy crop. If you don't get the chill, they don't bloom much at all. So they're very predictable compared to the other stone fruits. Plums, sometimes you think you got plenty of chill and they don't do anything. They're a little bit more unreliable, but peaches, especially peaches, you get your chill, you got a big crop. So very predictable trees. Now, soil-wise, they're not very picky. So if you have really nice soil like they have near the big rivers in Orange County, along the Santa Ana River, along most riverbeds, you have this real sandy soil. They love that. If you're in some of the hills, well, not so much in Orange County, more in San Diego County, some of those hills have decomposed granite, which is great. They'll do fine in that. A lot of the sections of Orange County have this clay. This is from about 2 miles from here. I mean, right here, the soil is great. 2 miles away, it's like that. It's just clay that dries into big clods. The peach trees do fine in that. So there's no problems with any of those unless you combine it with some kind of you mix compost in the ground, the clay becomes lethal. So don't follow the advice of most garden centers that tell you can fix clay by mixing it with compost.
Why?
Because, well, compost is not finished. It's still decomposing. When you're decomposing, you're using up the oxygen. Clay has a hard time breathing. So clay breathes, but very slowly. The air can't go in it very fast. So this makes the clay soil devoid of oxygen. The roots of plants need oxygen to breathe. So most of a plant, the green leaves make oxygen, but the roots have to breathe the oxygen that filters through the soil to the roots. And if you put compost in here, that's still, compost is never finished decomposing till it's gone. If you can see compost, it still has the ability to decompose and use up the oxygen. And that makes this totally devoid of oxygen because it breathes so slowly. A sandy soil can still get oxygen in it because the air flows through the soil more freely. Now, peaches aren't the most sensitive to it. But if you have a lot of compost ground, they won't be as healthy. The leaves will be smaller. They'll turn colors. They won't be as green. But if you use compost as a potting soil, because most potting soils are compost, you put it in a big pot and you put your peach tree in there, yeah, the foliage color is really off. It may not kill them. It may not hurt the roots severely or fatally, but they will not like it. Before we knew that, back in the 1980s, we grew peaches in pots, about 40% compost, and they did not look healthy beyond July. Because with the heat coming in July and August and September, a lot of the roots were burnt from the heat, and the few roots they had left were not healthy because of the compost around them. So the trees were struggling. It wasn't killing them, but they were certainly struggling. So no compost in the ground. We do recommend putting compost on top of the ground. That's where it belongs. So soil-wise, they're not that picky. If you do everything wrong, it won't kill them. So here's a typical grafted bare root. This is a nice sized one. Some of ours are skinnier than this, but they came in pretty nice this year. Now, there are different ways to train a peach tree. This particular one is easier when you don't have much room. You have essentially one trunk going upwards, and you can train all the branches to go horizontal. The horizontal branches, if they're horizontal, are fairly close to being horizontal. They'll catch more sunlight and they'll fruit better. The ones going straight up don't fruit well. So you can have one straight up trunk and everything else going horizontal. Won't take up much room. Now this tree, it's got 4 branches that look like they want to be trunks besides the one in the center. Now a lot of farms work with 4 or 5 trunks. So the problem we have with peaches, especially on standard rootstock like they are, they're so vigorous that these branches just grow too big. And if you have more trunks on the tree, or more central leaders, you can call them, then the branches coming off them aren't as vigorous. So what the university, I think it was University of Pennsylvania, figured out 20 years ago was that the branches that naturally grow during the year that are 1 to 2 foot long make the best fruit the next year. If you only have a single trunk, those branches might be growing 3 or 4 foot long. They don't fruit very well. They're too vigorous. So the ones that grow naturally about a foot, like here's the branch here that's pretty close to being, that looks like it's exactly a foot long. This branch can make really good fruit. One that was 2 foot long, also 1 to 2 foot, is your best quality fruit that the tree can make. Now here's some branches off an old peach tree. And I don't know if you can see from the back, but this one is mostly dead branches on this peach tree. I can see this branch grew last year and it's healthy. This branch piece right here grew last year. This branch grew last year. This piece right here grew last year on this one. And they're only like 3 or 4 inches long. So on these branches, you might get fruit that's only that big. And the rest of this is dead. Now here's the branch that's a little better. This branch grew a foot, close to a foot. So that's pretty good. This one grew about 6 inches. This one grew about 6 inches. This is last year's growth. This is the year before. And this is all previous years. They got this much, this much. So you can see there's not much really perfect branching. This on this one, this is close enough. But the rest of the stuff, you might as well get rid of it. It's too small. No use wasting your time on it. Now, again, you don't have to grow peaches like commercial orchards. Commercial orchards, they get the most money if the peaches are that big. So on a real short branch like this, you might get one piece that's like this big. Well, it still tastes good. So on this particular one, this one might be good enough to save, cut that entire thing off. So peaches and nectarines generally require the most pruning to get good quality fruit because they fruit on 1-year-old growth. And if you don't prune them, every year a tree is going to grow a foot or 2 longer and bigger and bigger. So what the orchards are supposed to do, this one didn't do it, is after they fruit, you cut them really short. and let them regrow. Now, if you're in Minnesota, that means that in the wintertime, let me get rid of all the dead stuff. Let's see. So, of course, you get rid of things that are totally dead. So that's the living stuff on this branch.
Do you recommend when you got a branch and it's pretty healthy and it's producing, let's say, 5 peaches, do you recommend looking at some of those and taking 2 of those off?
Yeah, on fruit trees, I'll bring this back here for more questions. On fruit trees, we like in the wintertime, you do your detail work, you want the branches to be about a foot apart. This is marginally too close. These two are definitely too close, so you choose one of those two and keep one of them. So we'll keep that one. So you kind of space them out, but you know, you want to make sure. Now these are new from here and new from here. This one is on last year's wood that's like this. So this one, you know, if you cut it short like this year, it'll regrow a branch in that spot, and these 2 will fruit this year. And like on these 3, well, you can say, well, this one's terrible, so I'm also cut that one totally off. And this one is on top of last year's growth, but it was this long. So in theory, you can cut this one shorter and let it regrow this year in the same exact spot and go with this one for this year. This one's not good. So you can do something like that. So you know, like if you're in Minnesota, your growing season's only 4 months, so you do everything at the end of the year. You cut off every other branch that already fruited, or you cut it short, let it regrow, and then you save the ones that are the perfect length. Here, because our growing season's so long and the peaches ripen and are harvested before midsummer, you can cut the branch short after you pick the fruit off it. Let it regrow that year, because we have a much longer growing season here. So you can actually do what takes 2 years in Minnesota, 1 year here. You can actually save this branch to fruit. After it fruits, cut it short, let it regrow, and it'll fruit next year.
The question, would you, because I watched this thing on YouTube, of course, and it showed that picking off, if you have a lot of peaches. I had one of my midsummer peach tree I got from you, and I got a lot of fruit on it. So I started picking off like every third fruit. And when would you do that? Because it grew big fruit that year when it did.
Right. So okay, so that's a different thing. But so when they bloom in the spring, each one of these buds can be a fruit. So you're way overloaded. So when they're about this, now a lot of them do abort, but once they get to about the size of a marble, they're set. So then you go through and cut off. Now this branch, really, 1 peach is all it can hold. 1 good peach. It'll do 3 small peaches, 2 medium size, or 1 big peach. So you space them about 8 inches apart on the stem. And that'll give them about 4 inches of separation, 3 or 5 inches of separation once they're big, but 8 inches apart on the stem is about right. So, you know, if you have a peach orchard, you're spending a lot of time in your orchard thinning out the crop. Because, you know, some peaches abort a lot of the fruit by themselves, but a lot of peaches don't abort a single one, and you have to cut off 90% of the peaches to get a decent crop. So
what's the worst thing that you could do if you're trying to prune your peach tree?
well, you still get peaches if you don't do any pruning at all. You just get a bigger and bigger tree. Now, there's different methods that are on the internet. So, well, like Dave Olson Nursery, the company we buy these from, they want to make it as simple as possible. So if you go onto their website and look up, summer pruning to keep the trees small, they'll just tell you to hedge the tree back at the end of summer. So peach trees, like most deciduous fruiting trees, especially ones that have a chill requirement, they grow like a weed in spring, like a weed in summer, and once we hit fall, they just stop. They stop growing. So they're at full size at the end of September, and if you want to keep them short, you just cut them to the size you want them to fruit at, which can be down to 4 feet. So Dave Wilson says any of their fruit trees, deciduous fruit trees, will fruit at 4 feet. You just make sure when you prune them that you leave some leaves on your plant. So wherever there's a leaf, that's this year's growth. And if you leave leaves on those branches when you're trimming them back, you'll get fruit next year. So I did that when I first started growing peaches because it was complicated to do this stuff. So I just hedged them back. And what I end up with is a tree that I was keeping about this big. The branches were getting shorter and shorter and shorter because I was just hedging it. So you're getting smaller and smaller fruit progressively over the years. If you try to keep it the same size, the tree's growing new branches and you keep cutting back to the same size. They can't, it's just the way it is. The branches get shorter. That's essentially what they were doing with this tree. They weren't selectively pruning the branches out. They're just cutting the tree to the same size. And you saw the dead branches in there from previous years. And then the new growth wasn't very long because they weren't cutting it back much. So,
And of course, you do all this when it's wintertime.
well, wintertime you do the selective cutting. Summertime you do the size thing.
Ah, okay.
So they stop growing at the end of summer. You might as well cut it back at that time to the branches that you want to fruit, mainly because all these buds get their energy in the fall. So when the tree stops growing in the summer, when it's growing, the buds aren't collecting energy. Once we get to fall and they've got 2 to 3 months just to sit there in the sun, collect energy, then they make their flower buds at that time. I mean, they make some during the summer too, but all the new growth in the summer makes their flower buds in the fall. So you want to get your size down before fall so that the leaves you have full sunlight. In other words, if you left it 10 foot tall all fall, the leaves at the top of your tree had the most sunlight, then you cut it down to 6 foot where you wanted to pick, you just cut off your best fruiting one. So it's better to cut it shorter right at the end of summer to the height you want to be. And then the wintertime, you do all your fine work, get your branching a foot apart, cut off the extra stems that you don't need. Don't cut them off, cut them short so they can regrow. If you cut one too short, they often regrow anyway. I mean, peaches and nectarines make a lot of branching all over.
So if I were to go home now and go to my peach tree, I could shorten the height of it?
Well, if you haven't shortened it yet, go ahead, but you're going to lose a lot of your best flowering wood when you do that. It's better to shorten it earlier in the year. But, still, if you see a lot of flower buds down here, you're fine.
Okay.
Because these are well-developed flower buds when they're swollen like that. So we don't, back in the 80s, what we did when we planted a bare root, because the bare roots were not as well branched as they are today, although this one is not perfectly branched here. So you see this one, it's bare on 2 sides of it. And the only way, the best way to ensure that it gets branches here is just to chop it really short and force it to branch out. So back in the 80s when we used to get peach trees, and none of them came in as nice as this. They're all like big sticks, single sticks with maybe 1 or 2 branches at the top. the growers didn't top them a lot in those days. Now they top them over and over and over during the year, and they get lots of nice branching. But in those days they didn't. They just sent us a stick with roots on it, and sometimes it was just one root on it. So we'd have to cut it down to about 18 inches to encourage the branching to start right around this height. The lower your, the thing about branching, the lower your branches are, the more likely you are to get fruit on them because the air is colder near the ground. So if if you have branches starting at 6 feet, the air is warmer up there. So it's better to get your branching as low as you can in our area. I mean, if you're in north of Santa Barbara, no problem, you get chill. But here, because our big thing is lack of chill, the shorter the branches are. I remember on one year on a plum tree, the only fruit I got was on the very bottom branch of the tree. The top of the tree had no chill.
When you prune, it won't matter, like you don't have to clip where there's a bud, or you can just cut it short to where you want, like you won't kill the branch if you just cut anywhere on it, or?
Well, yeah, there are rules. So the question was, where do you trim? Well, it's nice to trim close to one of these buds. Now, this is a young tree, so it's not that important. The trunk is only 2 years old, so the amount of damage you're doing to this tree is less. So just by cutting it here. So the problem we have is peaches, nectarines, among all trees known, are the loudest at sealing wounds. So if you prune this right here, you get a dead spot going down to the roots, pretty much in that trunk. So peach orchards are very short-lived. So they used to tell us, peach orchards, 25 years. Well, when they did a statistical study on peach trees and nectarine trees, they found that they fruited real well until about 10 years of age, and then they started going downhill. And by the 13th year, statistically, it was better to pull it out and start over. Because all the pruning that they do to make the best fruit quality damages the tree so badly that it's declining in production.
Can't you put that black stuff on there to seal it?
No. Well, it seals that, but it doesn't keep the wood from rotting.
Oh.
So on plants, the way they heal a wound is they have a mechanism inside their wood that's set up to the moment you cut it, it seals it. Now, what's interesting, among all trees, apple trees seal the best. Among all trees, doesn't matter what it is. When they did the study, and apple trees are related to peach trees, apple trees were the best, peaches were the worst at sealing wounds. So an apple orchard, you can prune. They're going 150 years or more with the same trees. Peach trees, again, 13 years is now the average because the wounding does so much damage to them. So when you have an old peach tree, if it's 20 years old and it suddenly just collapses in your yard and it's full of termites, you go, oh, the termites got it. No, the termites don't eat living wood. So termites go after the wood that was damaged when you did all your pruning. Termites keep the tree alive longer than it should because they're eating the dead stuff. It's like a leech on human wounds. They eat the dead stuff. They don't eat in the living stuff, so it keeps the tree healthier by eating the dead stuff. But eventually you have so much dead stuff, there's nothing holding the tree up, and it just collapses. So
If you're trying to,
let me get the mic.
I'm sorry. If you don't have a very large space,
Mhm.
you're trying to keep the tree small, would you pruning, these are central leaders somewhat, and that one is more of a base type. What do you recommend if you keep it small? You almost have to have a combination of both so you can still.
Yeah, it's a lot of peach trees refuse to have a single trunk. They're so vigorous that one of the side branches gets monstrous, you say, okay, I got another trunk now. Just go ahead and let it. Like this one's already got 5 essentially trunks you can use, which is fine. Just go ahead and use them. You know, if you have 2, that's fine. If the tree only makes 1, that's fine too. So you have to go with the vigor of the tree. This one's so vigorous. Since it already made them, might as well not cut them off. Just use these all 5 trunks it has, and take the side branches off, which look really good.
So, but would you take that central leader off?
No, no. No, we used to. In the old books, they would tell you if you had a trunk that didn't have the right branching, just cut it out and then train all the branches outwards from each other. So all the old books, they had you cutting it down the first year to 18 inches. Second year, cutting all those branches short too. Third year, cutting all those branches short too, and end up with 16 upright. 5 years later, your tree starts producing. Well, that's almost half its life. You spent making the structure.
Plus it's fat too.
Right, well, yeah, it's 20 foot across. So it's, you know, you get more fruit on that tree, but you would have gotten, you know, it's better to go with a tree like this, start getting fruit the first year, and just keep everything there. So what they found out is that these wide trees, if you let them grow this wide, you're getting fruit on these branches. This area is too dark. So now you go with smaller trees, then the whole tree's productive. So that's what they're doing now. They're just going with smaller trees. Forget this 20-foot wide stuff, because there's too much shade in the middle. It's this dead area, whereas a tree that's only, say, 6 foot wide, 5 or 6, you know, it's easy to keep peach trees about 5 or 6 foot across. Whether you have 1 trunk or 3 or 4, I would say 2 or 3 is easier, 5 foot, 6 foot across. Then most of your canopy is productive. You'll need to have more trees in your orchard, but so the initial cost is higher, but overall you'll get more production per square foot.
That's a question, because I've got a lot of trees from you, and I have that. I've got planted like 8 feet.
Excuse me,
So, yes.
what about citrus? Did the same pruning rules apply to citrus? Okay.
Well, okay, so most of the new orchards, you look at a new orchard, they keep the trees a lot smaller.
Yeah.
But in the old orchards, all they do now is they lobe the branching so the sun can get in there. In other words, if you're looking at a orange tree from the top, instead of being 15 foot wide and just a solid circle, they do this to it, which is kind of making it into a bunch of smaller trees. So the sun can get in there and make it more productive.
But it wouldn't hurt it. I cut back our citrus trees.
Yeah, now's a good time.
Okay.
They're at full strength. Whatever branches you leave with leaves on them will still flower and fruit this coming year. So yeah, lobing it is what they do if they've already have a big tree. And you can do the same with an old peach tree if you want. So, but again, you know, every time you prune it, you're shortening life. Okay, so that's pruning. Now I have mentioned in the past, peaches and nectarines, especially nectarines, require the most spraying of any fruit tree. Well, they're not drying out. We'll just leave them. Now, the trees we get in from the grower have already been sprayed, so those are fine. You just put them in the ground. Normally, when they drop their leaves off in the winter, we treat for a disease called peach leaf curl. Now, if you've got an incredibly dry winter, you won't get peach leaf curl. Peach leaf curl occurs when the growth buds on the stem get wet and stay wet for long periods. then this fungus attacks the buds, and the new growth, that initial new growth on the branch, comes out all blistered and red. Looks angry, looks just horrible. Doesn't kill the tree. What the tree does is it'll hold the leaves for a month, couple months, and then it makes new leaves, sheds off the bad ones. So by summer, your tree looks normal. But it wasted a lot of energy making a whole new set of leaves. So you don't want peach leaf curl because it messes up the strength of your tree. So when the leaves drop in December, although this year, I don't know if they all dropped off or not. I don't think it matters if they drop or not, truthfully. You apply one of the copper sprays that we have. So on our shelf, we have this copper fungicide, either in a concentrate you can put in your own sprayer, or a concentrate you attach with this hose thing. It dilutes it through the through this part, or this one's already diluted. This is enough to spray one medium-sized tree, say, because you're only spraying the flower buds or the leaf buds on that tree. This is enough to spray maybe 8 or 9 trees. It goes quite a ways. Now, commercially, they usually spray the trees about every 5 inches of rain. If you just spray it once, you rarely ever see, like I sprayed mine once, and maybe I'll get one branch that has peach leaf curl. So one spraying does most of the work. If you want to be perfect, every 5 inches of rain, spray it again. There's a better product that we used to use called lime sulfur. That's now legal to sell, so we can't carry that one anymore. And copper Bordeaux is another one that might be a little more effective than the copper spray. Yes.
Would you spray now then, Gary?
I sprayed my tree last week, and now it's rained. Do I need to respray it?
Not, well, 5 inches of rain washes enough to
Yeah.
kind of wash it off. I don't know. I've never sprayed more than once in a winter,
Okay, thank you.
and it always seems to work quite well.
And you spray just the buds, or you
Right.
spray where the buds are?
Right.
Okay.
The flower buds and the leaf buds are essentially the same buds. So
If you were going to prune the trees right now, just prune them back a little bit, because I didn't yet. Can I spray then after I prune them? Is that good then?
Yeah.
To protect, yeah.
So the research shows that as the buds swell and make a little color, that's the most effective, best time to spray them. However, if it's raining at that time, you're out of luck. So it's always good to get one spraying in, and if you want to do the best spraying right when they're starting to show color, that's even better. So commercial orchards do it that way because they don't want any peach leaf curl at all, because sometimes it scars the fruit and they can't sell it. For homeowners, just not a. I had a neighbor who never sprayed their peach tree, and they'd have peach leaf curl every year, and they still had lots of peaches. It's like, they'd have better peaches if they sprayed the thing, but they never did, and it didn't kill the tree, and they still had a crop every year. So that's pretty important on all the peaches, the nectarines, nectaplum that we'll be talking about. Now, the other thing that happens is there's 2 bugs that are bothersome, real bothersome. There's the so back in the 70s, this thing wasn't here, I don't think, because my parents grew peaches in the 60s and 70s, and I grew peaches in the 1980s for many years before I finally had a worm in my peach. I'm going, wait a minute, all my peaches have worms in them now. What happened? Now, this Oriental fruit moth has always been in the Central Valley because they've been growing peaches there for generations. Made it down to California because we started getting the peaches that would fruit here. So in the 60s, we had very few peach trees around because we didn't have the varieties that would fruit in Southern California. And then they started creating those, and as they created them, the peach pests started finding their way down here. So in the 1980s, the first time I saw the ornamental fruit moth. Now there's two bugs that are very similar. Peach twig borer and ornamental fruit moth. We have the ornamental fruit moth and not the peach twig borer, although you really can't tell them apart. It's just what they do. So what they do is they have 5 generations a year. The first generation, actually, the caterpillars eat the flower petals. The second generation bores into the ends of the stems and causes gummy ends and kills off the tips, leaves. The third generation goes right through the stem and the fruit into the fruit. So you don't see any holes on the outside of the fruit. They go in through the stem right into the fruit and around the pit. So when you take a bite, you see the worm right at the pit. Fourth and fifth generations go to the stem ends again all summer long, all fall. Now I brought this cherry tree in because it has a little bit of that damage going on, just so you know what it looks like. So the end of this stem, something got in there and something got in here and killed the end leaf on both of these stems. And the tips are a little bit swollen. This area right here on the stem is kind of dark and gummy. So they got into that stem also. And they drill it out. They eat the inside. It's softer in there. They eat the inside. And then what's interesting about this moth is it overwinters as a hibernating caterpillar. Unique among moths, because most moths either overwinter as a hibernating moth or as eggs or as a cocoon. This one is a hibernating caterpillar. It's really odd. So they're in the ends of these branches. So if I clip off the end, if you see the swollen area and you cut it off, you just gotten rid of that particular caterpillar. So you can go around now. This one's, well, this branch is not real good anyway, so I'll cut that off. So there might have been one right in here. There might have been one in there too. And there's one in here, so I'll cut the tip of that off. And you can get rid of them a lot in the wintertime. Once the tree starts blooming, they wake up, the sap starts flowing inside. They wake up, start eating the petals. And then they turn into little moths and go after the new growth. And then the third generation goes right into the fruit. The peaches that ripen in summer get the worm. If they're ripened before the first day of summer, no worm. Or we see very few worms in the spring ripening fruit. It's always the summer that gets it. Yes.
If you were to open that up somehow now, would you see anything? Like a bug?
Well, there may not be anything left. We spray our trees here. So it may not be still in there. I mean, some are pretty obvious. They're really big, swollen ends of the branches, almost like a little club. And you see how this goo come out, you know there's a worm in there. So, but we spray our trees now and then, so these may have been killed off.
But if I saw one of those on a thing,
Yeah, you can.
I'd probably see a worm.
Yeah,
Just curious.
they're pretty small worms, and the moths are pretty small too.
They will hurt my chickens if I feed them to my chickens.
Oh no, no,
Nothing.
it's good protein.
Again, if you've got infestation, what do you do?
So we use one of the products with spinosad. Now, 30 years ago, we didn't have an organic product. That made growing peaches, nectarines more troublesome. But now, since we have spinosad, which is considered organic and fairly harmless to any mammals or warm-blooded animals, and we carry these two brands. Then you just spray them, and the effects last 2 weeks for this peach twig borer. So if you see so they go into the fruit right before summer. So it's nice to make sure you don't have those infected tips in the spring. If you see an infected tip, they call it flagging. The very last couple leaves just turn brown because they've been drilled through, and their circulation got cut off. if you see that flagging on your tree, then keep spraying with the spinosad until you don't see that, so that you won't get the fruit, because once they're in the fruit, you can't hurt them. I mean,
If you cut that off, if you saw it, would you cut it off? Would that be damaging to the tree, or should you spray it?
well, it damages the tree, but the bug damages it also. I mean, anytime you prune a tree, you're damaging the tree, and on peaches and nectarines, yeah, it might be a little less damaging just to spray it.
So this is one reason why I came here today, because I have peaches and nectarines and apples,
Mm-hmm.
and this darn thing got all of my tree this year. And you couldn't see it. It came, like you said, right through the top, and also you open it up and there's a worm in there.
Right.
And so should I just look at all of our trees, look at the tips of the branches, and then start spraying like crazy, or what?
Well, don't spray until they wake up. So right when they bloom, that's the time to spray it. Now, the oil fruit moth only goes after peaches, nectarines real bad, but they can go after apricots and plums and all the other stone fruit, cherries too. It's not as bad, but they can. That's a cherry tree right there. In fact, it has a little bit of damage on it. So yeah, it does help to spray all those. Now your apples, it's a different worm. It's a codling moth, and the spinosad will take care of codling moths too. Pear trees are like apple trees. They can get the codling moth also. So that's a different control. We talked about that last week. So, but we can still use the spinosad to control that.
So you spray right when they start to fruit, or you spray when they're flowering, or when
You want to make sure you don't have any of this damage going on, because you can't tell when they go on the fruit. It doesn't give you a clue.
So I mean, as a bud, you spray when there's a little fruit bud.
Yeah, well, for another reason, we'll go all over that right now. So, so we don't have the peach twig borer. Peach twig borer goes right to the outside of the fruit, into the fruit. We don't have that because we never see the hole. It goes right to the stem of the fruit, into the fruit. So that's one insect. The other insect that's bad is your western flower thrips. And this hurts the nectarines. So apparently the fuzz on peaches protects them from the western flower thrip. So I first started growing nectarines in the 1990s, and the fruit was so ugly. You know, the flowered fine, fruit formed fine, but it was so scarred. I just couldn't believe it. It had these marks all over the fruit. It was leaking sap. It didn't look like anything you wanted. It looked like a tumor of some sort. It didn't look like a fruit at all. And I asked the grower, well, what's going on here? The western flower thrip attacks the embryos inside the flower. So the western flower thrip goes into the flower itself. I don't know if it's consuming pollen or whatnot, but it's damaging the embryo of the nectarine. It can't damage the peach embryo because I guess it's already covered in fuzz, but it damages the nectarine embryo inside the flower. And so when the fruit forms, it's all scarred up. And I asked them, well, how do you control this thing? They told me all the chemicals they use to control it. I didn't want to spray that on my fruit trees. So I just pulled my nectarines out. I said, okay, we can't grow, organic nectarines. Well, now that we have spinosad, and spinosad is the best thing to control thrips known, then now we grow nectarines again. You can grow them organically finally. You can keep them out by covering your whole tree in gauze, but then the bees don't get the pollen. You have to have the bees in there to pollinate it. So what you do is you spray the tree with spinosad in the evening after the sun sets. The bees shouldn't be there anymore after the sun sets. If you hit a bee with spinosad, you kill the bee. If you don't touch it, once it dries, it doesn't hurt the bee. The bees are out early in the morning, so it's better to do it in the evening. Because sometimes you go out there, in a spring morning, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, the bees are already out there. because it's already light. So it's better to do in the evening and spray the tree once a week while it's in bloom to keep the thrips out of the flowers. And that keeps the nectarines and the nectaplum from getting scarred up. So 3 things you got to spray for to get good fruit.
What was the telling factor that you have the flower? Oh, it's ugly. Is that what you said? It's like it looks like a tumor on your.
Well, you can't tell that the thrips came until the fruit's already formed.
Oh.
And then the fruit is all scarred up. I mean, sometimes on a nectarine, you'll just see a mark that looks like this, like a Nike swoosh. And it doesn't look too bad. But that was what the thrip did to the skin of that fruit. But if you have bad thrips, I mean, it's just all over. The thing is just misshapen, scarred all over, and it's leaking sap. It's like you don't even want to eat that thing. It's just so ugly. At best, it's just one streak going across. But it's usually a lot worse than that. Yes.
Is that mostly on nectarines or peaches or peaches?
I've never seen it on a peach.
Never on a peach. Okay.
It's just nectarines. That's the fault. That's the problem with nectarine. That smooth skin apparently makes them susceptible to thrip damage in the flower stage. It's kind of odd. So I haven't looked closely at a nectarine flower versus a peach flower. There's got to be something there that's different that the thrips avoid the peaches.
So I have a nectar plum and it hasn't grown fruit yet. Do I
You spray that.
just every week or?
Right, once a week because there's different flowers open every week.
Oh, okay.
So once a week while they're blooming, you spritz them with the spinosad. Yeah, the first time I grew a nectaplum, it was badly scarred, so I knew it was the same thing that nectarines have. So.
Okay.
Fertilizer wise, not so picky. We try to recommend organic fertilizers. We carry 2 brands of organics, Down to Earth and True Organic. You can use chicken manure. There are a lot of things organic out there. Fish emulsion. They're not that picky about fertilizers. If you use a rose fertilizer, you're probably okay. Certain fruit trees need certain more minerals of certain types, but peaches and nectarines don't seem to be very picky. Commercially in orchards, they tell them not to fertilize the first year. There's usually enough nutrition in the branches to get so much growth on them. We usually fertilize that for homeowners. You go ahead and fertilize. Your tree will grow faster that way. So most of these trees can end up close to 10 foot. If you fertilize them once, they'll probably grow about 8 foot. If you fertilize them more than once, they may make it to 10 foot the very first year. So you may only want to, I would say just one feeding is plenty to get plenty of growth on it.
That's all you need, unlike avocados and citrus.
Right.
3 times a year. This only once a year.
They come to us already pretty full of nutrition. They're pretty big plants to begin with. But in our nursery, if we feed them once in the spring and by summer they're already about 8 foot tall, we have to cut them back. And then we fertilize them again and they grow another 3 feet. I mean, they'd be 10 foot tall if we hadn't been pruning them. So you don't need to feed them more than once. And then in my own yard, I rarely ever feed the stone fruit trees after the first year. Just leave the dead leaves on the ground. That's good enough. That's plenty of fertilizer right there. And any other mulches I create in my garden, I'll just throw them underneath my fruit trees, and that's a good enough source of nutrition for them. because we don't want that much growth on them. If they're growing, you know, a foot a year, that's plenty.
How do you water the deep root?
Constant light irrigation is the way all of agriculture has gone. So all the research we've been getting the last 2 years says the more frequently and lightly you water, the better the plants respond. And that's been done in Florida, been done in Brazil, because they were often, in a lot of the trees, they said, well, we're watering 2 hours every 2 days. What happens if we change? So they want to see what happens if they change it to 20 minutes 3 times every day, which is the same amount of water. They said, boy, the trees look a lot better and they produce better. Same amount of water, but you break it up into shorter intervals and the trees just respond better. It's just like us. If you have 1 drink a day, you feel terrible. If you have 10 drinks a day, you feel a lot better. So the trees, apparently, the more evenly you keep the moisture level. I mean, if you have trees by a riverbed, no problem. It's got the same amount of water all the time, but if it's depending on your irrigation, yeah, it's better to water constantly.
So if you could almost plant this tree around and put it in with, you know, the grass sprinklers.
Sure. Sure.
It would be okay.
Yeah.
Like an avocado.
Yeah, grass uses more water than a fruit tree does. So yeah, go ahead.
So if you don't have that, I've got mine. I've just got twice a week. I go for like 20 minutes to half an hour twice a week. And see if it's okay.
Yeah.
Should I do it more?
Well, I mean, if you're depending on your fruit trees for your livelihood, then yeah, it's better to do as good as you can, which is 3 times a day, 20 minutes each. Or, you know, there are some farms, they said in Central Valley, they have all these computers hooked up. They can water 18 times a day. And they said they saved a lot on their water bill, watering 18 times, because they have computers that detect how much moisture is still left in the soil. They know. So they know exactly how much to do. And they said they're watering up to 18 times a day to keep the moisture level even. And they said that's the best they've done.
I just changed mine. I got a drip line on everyone. I just changed mine.
Right. So that's, and they didn't find anything negative about that at all, because they did a study 40 years ago now, where they watered an orchard once a week with drip, and they watered it once a day with drip, expecting to find deeper roots on the trees they watered once a week, and they didn't. They found smaller roots on the trees they watered less frequently, which they weren't expecting that at all, but that's the results they got. So they know frequent watering does not create shallow roots, which is what all the people on the internet seem to want to tell you. You create deeper roots by watering deeper, and it didn't happen. So the roots, I don't know, I think if you water deeply, you flood the ground so badly that the roots all suffocate that are deep. So I don't know, but that's the results they got, was that the more frequently they watered, the deeper the roots were, the bigger the root systems were. Okay, now once the fruit's off, you can really back off on the water. So, and just so you know, most of the peaches and nectarines we have either orange tags or yellow tags, which means they're on full-size trees. I might have one out there with a pink tag on it, which is a semi-dwarf rootstock. Now, we don't like the semi-dwarf rootstock. It's called citation. Its big thing is it really likes wet soil, especially wet clay can handle it, but it doesn't handle drought well at all. So 10 years ago, when we had that drought, that is, whatever it was, 6-year drought, and they told us on the 4th year, they told us cut back the watering by 20%. So I cut back the watering on 20%, and every single tree I had on a citation rootstock, the semi-dwarf rootstock, died. None of my other fruit trees died. Everything on standard rootstock was fine. Everything on citation died. So we know it needs more water than the other rootstock. So I'd rather go with, you know, that citation didn't dwarf height-wise, it dwarfed sideways. Didn't really make the trees shorter. It made them skinnier, and it made the trunk skinnier. So really, it wasn't doing a whole lot for my trees. They were skinny trunks. Still grew tall. You have to just keep pruning them. Didn't grow as wide though. So on an orchard, they can fit more trees in because they're skinnier. But other than that, I wouldn't recommend. Now, there's a few fruit trees that are only can be grafted to citation. So you'll see citation, the pink tags out there. It's because that tree you can't graft it onto the standard rootstocks. Okay, any questions on culture? Now, last year, in the last 2 or 3 years, we've been getting a lot of mildew in the summer on the leaves where the new growth is all pink, white, fuzzy, rolling up. It's not critical you treat that. It usually happens summer and fall. But if you want to, an oil spray will take the mildew right off the leaves.
Is that neem oil?
This is mineral oil. I'm not a big fan of neem, although this is considered organic too. Spray the oil on mildew, it kind of kills the mildew. Sometimes we'll add baking soda to this. Baking soda keeps the mildew from coming back for a longer period. And if this is ready to use, it's already mixed with water. 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda in here is the proper amount of baking soda, and you spray it. The oil kills the mildew. The baking soda keeps the mildew spores from sprouting for about a week. If you grow them in containers, we do grow them in containers. We use our top potting soil, which is different than most potting soils. It's got a lot of permanent material in here, so it's 65% permanent material. Most potting soils are 80% compost, so they just shrink over time. So the trees don't like them. This is what our soil looks like in use. It's got a lot of white in there because the white stuff is permanent. Sand, volcanic rocks, sponge rocks, which are all quartz crystals. That's permanent. That's basically what soil is quartz. There are black soils. Okay, so in nature, there is something called a black soil due to its charcoal content, not because you have rotting compost in it. So you can make black soil by having rotting compost, rotting anaerobically, creating black gases, sewer gases. We actually put charcoal in here. So everything you need for a good soil is in that. So if you're putting them in pots, now we've seen peaches and nectarines fruit fairly heavily in a 15-gallon, although it's really kind of small. But we had a peach tree in this size one year make over 50 peaches for us. So they can fruit pretty heavily in a container. Now, they don't like black plastic getting hit by the sunlight, but if you shade the black plastic, it's okay. Like at our store, we have trees all around, so they're shading the containers. If you have this sitting out in full sun, it kind of burns a lot of the roots up. They don't like it. So you can paint it. Yeah, you can paint it white or just cover with something. It's hard to paint with plastic sometimes. Bigger pots, you get more fruit, of course. And in containers, you may have to fertilize more. In the ground holds on to fertilizer a lot better. In containers, you probably will have to fertilize more. Now, one interesting thing that we've always seen over the years, 50 years ago, our peach trees and our apricots and our cherry trees every summer would come down with these red blotches that would eventually fall out, leaving a hole. We thought, that's shot hole fungus. I didn't know we got shot hole fungus, so I spray them with fungicide every year and it wouldn't help. I thought, well, maybe it's insects, so I sprayed them with insecticide. Didn't help. I thought, well, let's just grow new leaves. Get rid of these old leaves and grow new leaves, so I fertilized more. Never happened again. So if you see red blotches on the leaves during the summertime, you're running out of nitrogen fertilizer. So we notice in one of our books that have tree melodies, yeah, you get this red blotch. They're running out of nitrogen fertilizer. And so what that leaf does, in order to grow a new leaf, it has to sacrifice its old leaf. So it just starts dying, getting the red blotches, and the new leaves are made, but your sacrifice won't let us do it. So if you fertilize them, you won't see that. The leaf will live the entire year. But if you don't fertilize them enough, then you'll get the red spots that fall out. Looks like something going on.
Does that have anything to do with the acidity or the alkaline properties of the soil when you get that we were just talking about?
Well, pH, the pH of the soil is more to do with how chemical fertilizers dissolve. So if you're going organic, the pH shouldn't matter, but if you use chemical fertilizers, then nitrogen dissolves better and iron dissolves better with acidic soils. Phosphorus dissolves better with alkaline soils. So you want to be at the right in between, that where they all dissolve decently, like a pH 6, 7, rather than going to 4 or to 10. But with organics, nothing's dissolving, so it doesn't really matter. So.
Because we always just put acidic stuff on our apple trees. I'm not exactly sure why.
Well, most plants that have leaves that grow during the summer come from wet climates. And whenever you have more than 30 inches of rain a year, your soil is acidic. So the plants come from wet climates, the apples come from really wet climates, peaches come from eastern China, which is like Georgia and Tennessee. They probably get 40, 50 inches of rain there. So it's an acidic soil, so they're used to that.
So if you're taking it to high desert, you probably would like more acidic stuff.
Probably, yeah. If you don't get much rain, then your soil is naturally alkaline.
So if it's acidic like that, am I right that our water has less salt in it, which makes it acidic or alkaline?
No, they make our tap water, well, throughout the country, they make tap water high pH, like 10 or 12, on purpose, because if it's anywhere close to neutral, the metal pipes start dissolving. So they have to make it highly alkaline, but it's not buffered much. It's it hits the ground will change the pH of it to what the ground is. So the water in tap water is highly alkaline, but it's not buffered heavily. If it was buffered heavily, it would stay alkaline, but it doesn't. But it is alkaline. So if you're just watering tap water the entire year, your soil gets more and more alkaline because of that.
So is there anything we could do to kind of balance that out?
Any organic matter in the ground is giving off acids. Put sulfur on the ground now and then. The element sulfur is eaten by bacteria in the ground that poop sulfuric acid. So.
What about chicken manure?
Well, anything organic is acidic. Anything organic. About one of the few things that's not might be coffee grounds.
Oh.
Because they said the acid came out with the coffee. So, but yeah, pretty much everything that's organic that died is going to give off acids. Okay, I think we covered all culture, I think. Oh, I did mention that lime sulfur is better than the stuff we sell, but they took it off the market. What they're trying to do is so lime sulfur is safe to touch and eat, but if you splash in your eyes, it is an acid and it can permanently damage your eyeballs. So they took it off the market just to avoid that part of it. But it was supposed to be the best thing for peach leaf corolla ever, was that product. So.
Would you recommend, talking about the tree, I know you sell a product that's white to paint the trunks with.
Mm-hmm.
We recommend painting the trunks on these trees as well, like you do.
I have not seen burning on peach trunks. I've seen, we see it regularly on avocados, mangoes. I haven't seen it on citrus, although it can happen. And I've also seen it on apple trees once, but I haven't seen it on peaches or nectarines. I mean, I'm sure the tree will like it if you do it, because, normally the sun doesn't hit the trunks. There's enough leaf up there. So if you want to paint it, there's no problem. You can paint them white.
Except when we have our December, it's sort of like 100 degrees, starting at 5 degrees.
Yeah.
No leaves.
Yeah. All right, let's go over the varieties. So we'll go, let's see, how shall we do this? We'll start with the lowest chill peaches. So the peaches that are most likely to produce fruit, we'll start with those. So if you don't get the chill, and if you get a little bit of chill, the low chill peaches start flowering. Some of our customers said in late December, their peaches were blooming. That's a real low chill peach. It got its chill in November, so when November heated up, and when December heated up, they started blooming. And in the past, I would say 20 years ago, that was common. We had so much cool weather 20, 30 years ago, where we saw a lot of the low chill peaches blooming in December. So you have the lowest chill peaches we have. Well, I'm not sure which is exactly the lowest, but there's Saucy Swirl, and there's Eva's Pride, and there's Tropic Snow. This is a white peach, this is a yellow peach, this is a white peach. So those three, should have brought my list of trees out, should never ever fail in your yard. Real low chill, below $200. The problem is this one ripens in May. This one ripens late May to early June. This one ripens early June. So the problem we have with those three, even though they're highly productive here, is that if there's cloudy weather when they're ripening, the taste isn't there. So they tend to be bland. Of these three, Eva's Pride is thought, I remember back in the 1990s, I was eating Eva's Pride. It was raining that day. We had a El Nino that went on until through May into early June. Eating Eva's Pride, I'm going, it tastes pretty good for having rainy weather. So Eva's Pride is known to be one of the best tasting of the early peaches. Tropic Snow, you get into, last few years we really haven't had as much rain anywhere near late. So Tropic Snow has got a better chance than Saucy Swirl. I remember Saucy Swirl, that was one tree we had in a 15 gallon that had like 70 fruit on it. The top ripened first, early May, no taste at all. The bottom of the tree ripened a little later, late May, and the sun came out and it was decent. It was decent fruit. Saucy Swirl is also a donut type peach, shaped like that, with the seed like that. So they call them donuts because you can easily push the seed out and you have this ring of flesh to eat. They call it swirl because it's got a little bit of pink in the flesh, swirling around the flesh. So I can imagine if you lived in Arizona and this was ripening in May in Arizona, it'd be really good. Or even just back in Riverside, it'd be really good because they don't have as much cloud cover as we do here. Okay, then we've got Mid-Pride, Donut, August Pride, the Eldorado, got Red Baron. I think that's our entire peach lineup. Mid-Pride, so all these require less than 200 hours. Mid-Pride is right around 200. Donuts a lot higher. I don't usually recommend donut for most of our customers, although we have a few customers that really do well with donut. It says 200 to 300. I would tell you it's at least 300. August Pride is like 270. Eldorado is something we just picked up this year. Oh, it's one word. 400 hours or less is what the catalog says. We hope it's a lot lower than that. And then Red Baron seems to be right around 300. So Mid-Pride ripens late June. Donut early July. August Pride late July, early August. Eldorado, I don't know that one. Red Baron is the same, late July to early August. Now, the best peach of all these peaches we've ever eaten is Red Baron. But because it's 300 hours, it hasn't fruited every year. I would say the last 10 years, probably 6 years of good fruit. And 4 years where it didn't wake up properly, didn't make any fruit. August Pride never blanks on us. So Red Baron, like a lot of high chill fruit trees, if they didn't get the chill it needs, it just blanks. It doesn't wake up at all in the spring. It sits there until August and puts out about an inch of growth. And that's it for the year. It barely survives. Whereas August Pride, even if it doesn't get its chill, it seems to wake up at the normal time and put out a few flowers and make a few fruit. So it doesn't seem to blank on us. It seems to want a fruit. The Mid-Pride, I've never seen a bad crop on it. So this one might be as good as those lower chill ones. It ripens a little bit early. So late June, you can still have some June bloom going. So the fruit quality is not quite as good as August Pride, August Pride, Red Baron, late July, early August. You got the most sun you're going to have that entire year. So those always come out the best they can be. Donut, I used to live on a hilltop. I never got more than 2 fruit in a year. So I don't know. The chill may be a lot higher than 300. Maybe a lot higher because I'd have bumper crops on August Pride and Red Baron. My donut, never more than just a couple of fruits. So
Is Mid-Pride the same as Midsummer? Is that I'm just
no Mid-Pride.
Do I have a Mid-Pride problem?
If you got it from us, I've never carried anything out that's called Midsummer.
Okay, then that is a wonderful trait.
Yeah.
I'm really happy. Lots of fruit.
I think they call it Mid-Pride because it's the middle of the peach season. So peach season's from about April to the end, toward mid-August. They have a May Pride, which ripens in May, which is a problem. So they have a lot of different Pride ones. So among all these trees, August Pride sells the best because it seems like you always get some fruit. You often get a lot of fruit, and it is real close to Red Baron in quality. Red Baron is the best we've eaten, but We've missed quite a few years, the last 10, although the last 3 years we've gotten fruit on it. Last 3 years, I have one Red Baron in my neighborhood right on Fairhaven Road. You can see it from Fairhaven when you drive by, so that's my test plant. It blooms really good. Now Red Baron, this is yellow, white, yellow, Eldorado. Let's see, Eldorado is yellow. So a long time ago, we couldn't get Eldorado, which is a dwarf. It's a miniature. So this is a dwarf peach. We're trying it. So in the past, we had access to Bonanza and Southern Rose Peach and Honey Babe Peach. Of those three, the only one that made a decent peach was Honey Babe, but it needed 500 hours of chill. And back in the 80s, my tree fruited, even though we had those real cold winters, it only fruited once. It never fruited again, so we gave up on Honey Babe. Needs too much cold winter. Southern Rose fruited. Didn't bother eating them because they were lousy. Bonanza, even the book says it's mediocre quality. So it's like, what's the use? Eldorado, we've been told by some customers, is quite good. We couldn't get it because for a long time it was a Jackson and Perkins specialty. But what's interesting, now that we can get Eldorado, we looked up where it's from. A man in the city of Orange found it and selected it. Now, Jackson Perkins back in the 70s was located, their breeding facility was located in Irvine. So I guess they were told by this guy that lived in Orange, this is a good little miniature peach. And so Jackson Perkins patented it back in the 80s or 90s when they were located here. And we couldn't get it at that time. But now that Jackson Perkins pretty much is gone and you can get it. So it says 400 hours less. Now back in the 80s, we had 400 hours and more chill here. Haven't had that lately. So hopefully, we hope it's a lot less than 400 hours. And if it was found by a guy in Orange, we hope it's well adapted to this area with the current weather situation. So we'll try it and see how we do. Because one of our customers says he's been having good crops on this for the last 5 years. And he lives in this area. So we hope it's as good as he says it is. And he says he also grows one called Pixie, which we've never grown. So we might even pick up that one. Also says 400 hours or less. So we have a few of these out there right now. I'll probably pick some more up. Oh, thank you. We got it this year. I totally forgot. It's a white peach, early July. So Babcock's the weird one. It's one of the first peaches we ever sold at our nursery starting back in the 1960s. At that time, it was the lowest chill peach known. But what we noted is that it never woke up in January or February, or March or April. It woke up really late, but it seemed to fruit every year. And even the literature says the same thing. It seems to be low chill, but blooms late, not like other low chill peaches. So we're finally, I've been so hesitant because it never blooms right. I was thinking the chill on it's got to be high. It always blooms real late, but all the literature says the same thing. So we're trying it again. We got it in stock this year. We had a few last year. We're carrying it more this year to see if it actually is that, because it is a good quality peach and it ripens early July. Real soft. Back in the old days, 50 years ago, they used to wrap them in tissue at the supermarket because they were so fragile. My dad used to grow Babcocks and he used to pick them green. because he liked them a little firmer, so he picked them green. But that is one of the best peaches that we might be able to grow here. I mean, you know, even with the low chill winters, we'll see how well it does. Now, all the trees we get have already gotten 500, 600 hours of chill. So this first year, they'll all fruit no matter what. It's next year's a tree that will determine if be the real test case if they'll actually produce here or not. Okay.
Yeah.
From last year?
No, just got them right now.
Okay.
And then, Tuesday.
Okay, so that's our peach lineup. We do have one dwarf peach. So the dwarf peaches are real short branched, so you don't have to prune them at all. Now they do eventually get taller. Like I kept my honey babe around in the 80s, even though it wasn't producing, to see what it would do, and it still got this tall. I had it for about 8 years, one crop on it. It eventually made it up to over 6 foot tall. So the miniature peaches can still need some pruning eventually. So, okay, so that's our peach lineup. So, you know, the thing is, you'll get more peaches on these trees. You get better tasting peaches on those trees. And the University of California at their field station Irvine found exactly the same. The trees that make the most fruit have the lower quality fruit. The trees that make the least fruit have the higher quality fruit. It's hard to get around that on peaches. So our best recommendations are usually mid-pride and August pride. Mid-pride never seems to miss. You always get lots of good peaches. August pride, little better peaches. You might get low numbers on some years. We've tried a lot of other peaches. Santa Barbara peach. Santa Barbara is a lot cooler than here, never produced here. Long Beach peach does okay. It was found in Long Beach. One other one that we had. Don't recall the name now. Okay, nectarines.
Yeah.
So we've got two low chill ones. There's Desert Delight. It's a yellow meat. And then there's, I don't know who named this one. Atomic Red Flowering White Nectarine. Yeah.
Right on the outside.
It blooms red flowers. It's a white nectarine. And then there's Double Delight. Now I forgot to mention, Red Baron is called Red Baron not for the fruit. It's got the best flower show I've ever seen on a fruit tree. So when Red Baron blooms, the flowers look like good-sized carnations. And when the Red Baron blooms, we've seen it in full color for 6 weeks. It's just amazing. When the Red Baron blooms, it's a show. I mean, we had heard about this in the 1980s from the LA Times garden writer, Robert Smouse. He says, this is a perfect tree. So we tried it that year. We go, this is not a fruit tree. This is a flowering peach tree. And then the fruit developed, and it was the best fruit we'd ever eaten. We're going, okay. Now, before that, we had been carrying a tree called Bonita peach, which was the best tasting peach I'd ever eaten and grown, but it had the ugliest flowers I'd ever seen on a peach tree. I mean, the flowers had no petals. It was weird. The ugliest flower on a peach tree I'd ever seen was on Bonita peach. Why they call it pretty, I don't know. It's like the worst looking tree I'd ever seen. Red Baron is the most spectacular bloom I've ever seen on any fruiting tree. The whole tree looked like a giant red carnation. Atomic Red Flowering White Nectarine has flowers similar to Red Baron. Double Light has a double pink flower on it. So good, both are good bloomers. This is yellow, this is white. Double lights, at least 300 hours. It hasn't done that well here for a long time. It might be more like 350. It's supposed to be 300, but it doesn't seem to be. Desert light's more like 200. It never misses. Atomic red white flowering nectarine is right around, it might be greater than 200, but not by much because it's never missed. My daughter's had this at her house for 3 or 4 years now, and she lives in Santa Ana, a little closer to South Coast Plaza. Never missed a year on her atomic red white flowering white nectarine, red flowering white nectarine. It ripens early, but it's pretty good fruit. Desert Light ripens early also, so get the chart out. So this is early to mid-June. This is mid-July. So when this does fruit, it's quite good. This is one I grew in the 1990s, and the fruit was so badly scarred, I just dug it out and never even ate the fruit. But it does ripen at the right time. So it is considered, the books say it's our best nectarine. We also have, I forgot to put it in here, we have Snow Queen. Which is white, which is late June. Snow Queen is also right around 300 to 350. So Snow Queen hasn't done much lately either. So these two have been the only reliable nectarines that we've had, really. Unless you live in a colder winter area, like along the Santa Ana River and a canyon somewhere. So that's why we have the Nectaplum. So it's called Spicy. And he said they crossed a nectarine and a plum to get this. It's white meat. The chill on it's probably around 270 hours. And it's mid-July. And it's also really a pretty tree. So we usually recommend, if you want a white nectarine, we usually say Spicy. Best one to get. So even though they said it's a cross between a nectarine and a plum, the tree looks like a nectarine tree. Plums have different leaves. The leaves on this are plum colored. So they come out kind of that bronzy plum color. The flowers are bigger than normal and they're a mauve pink. So it's got a nice bloom. Like most peaches nectarines kind of bloom a shell pink. This one blooms kind of a mauve-y pink. So it's a pretty flower. And again, they're bigger flowers than normal. And the tree is kind of beet colored all the way through August before it fades to bronzy green. So it's a nice looking tree, treated just like a nectarine. So the fruit is pretty darn good. Anyone who has the Spicy loves it. And Dave Wilson says it's probably their best selling stone fruit. Probably our best selling stone fruit also. This year we ordered, I think last year we ordered 80. This year we ordered 60, maybe 50 of them.
One of them is mine.
Yeah, they said that if you eat the fruit, you can taste some plum in it. I never have. It's just a good white nectarine. Okay, any questions today? All right, thank you.